Well, this is your So What Seamstress, and today I'm going to try to turn this really worn out sofa cushion. It's even got a and it's got a hole on the side here. But I'm going to try to turn that into one of these beautiful cushions. And this is with chenille fabric. It's a little bit tricky to work with because it does fray, so you do need to serge your edges. And I serge all the edges of the pieces before I even start making it. So what you want to do is measure your cushion from end to end, all four sides, and then you're going to cut 4 pieces that fit that side. Now I purposely made the longer sides a little bit smaller to pull this top over, and that way some of the seams are kind of hidden, especially the ones in the back, because they're going to be back up against the back of the sofa anyway. But you'll see what I'm talking about as we do it. This one I've already put, as you can see, it's finished. It's got a beautiful zipper in there. The seams are kind of down a little bit. That's just because that's the way I wanted it to look, so that when it's sat on, you don't see this seam. It actually looks like it's all part of the back. So this one is about 5 inches wide. So I cut 4 strips, and 2 of them are short, 2 of them are long because it's a rectangular cushion. And I took 3 of those strips. The long side is where the zipper goes on this particular cushion. So the other long side that goes in the front doesn't get the zipper. So I went ahead and I sewed the front to the 2 short sides. So now I've got like this U going here, like a horseshoe. So this will wrap around it. And then when I cut the top pieces, all right, where are they at? I just had them. What did I do with them? Hold on just a second here. Oh, they're on the chair. And so I have a front and a back. This is a front. And then there's the back. They're the exact same size. As you can see, this is the short side and there's the long side. So this will be either the front or towards the zipper part. Now, if you notice on this chenille, it's got a reverse side that you can use as well. So it's one of those lovely finds where you get 2 for 1. So I could either make this where I have the orange leaf pattern as predominant, or I could have done it the reverse with the beige. This is actually the wrong side, but you could make it with the wrong side, because with chenille, it's either or. It really is, because the way this was woven together is really interesting. But that would make it a lot of orange, and the person that I'm making these for, she doesn't want so much orange. So we're going to do it where the background is mostly beige. Actually, it's a gold color. It's really beautiful. And so that'll be our main color. And that's why I could use orange thread with this, or I could use gold. So I've got gold in my machine here. This is a JCPenney. It's a JCPenney Ultra, and it's I'm trying to see what the model number is on this one. It's one of their heavy duty models, and it is a 0104, JCPenney 0104. It's a vintage machine, and you won't be amazed how quiet this machine really is. I've got my serger set up here, and I've got every other spool of thread, orange and like a beige, because the gold was too yellow, and that's what I edged this off with. So with the one long side, remember there's 2 long sides, 2 short sides, the one long side, I marked it with a washout marker in the center, so that I am going to use this for my zipper. So I'm going to cut this in half, and then I'm going to serge both ends, or both edges, excuse me. And then we will get to putting the zipper in. Now I needed for these cushions a 24-inch zipper, and otherwise it would be too hard to actually put the cushion inside the cover. And we don't want to have any issues with trying to put a cushion inside its cover that we're making. I'm going to cut on this line here in the center. Actually, I think my serger is noisier than the sewing machine. Come to think of it. So now I'm going to serge this. I'm going to go over here and serge this edge, raw edge. I do a lot of serging standing up, so. Cut that off and do the other strip. Okay. And I've got, I think this is my zipper here. Put me here. Yeah. That's my zipper. It blends in just fine. You can't find exactly the right color for this, but this should do. Let me double check on my length. Make sure I've got the right one out here. And I do. Okay. I've got so many zippers, sometimes I lose track. So, just like you would with any type of clothing, to do a zipper, what you want to do is put in the seam that you're going to seam rip out, and that way you're going to do that on the biggest stitch. And for this one, what I'm going to do for the first inch or so, I'm going to do a regular stitch, stitch width, because that is where it's going to be connected to the top and the bottom, and I want that to be strong. I don't want it to be weak. I don't want to accidentally rip those stitches out, because that has happened, by the way. And we'll do a few stitches forward and back. You see how quiet this machine is? It's amazing. I just can't get over how quiet it is. And it's a heavy duty. So we can handle this kind of work. This would even handle like a lightweight vinyl. Leather, not so much. You need a walking foot for that. I'm going to make it small again for the end part. In this machine, you just push the button in for reverse. I have a video on this machine, I believe. It's so easy to use, and it's nice and quiet. It's like one of the quietest machines I have. So now I've stitched the side the zipper goes in. I've stitched it at a 5/8 inch seam, because that's all you need for this. And then I'm going to place that zipper in the center of the full length of this. So I usually end up, and you want it zipper face down, and usually kind of start this way and see what I end up. I need to go about here, it looks like. Looks like I gotta go down like 4 inches on that side. Yep, just about 4 inches. And I'll show you what I've been doing this so long I don't measure, but if you want to make sure when you put your zipper on, when you start to sew your zipper on there, measure from the top edge to the top of your zipper and make sure it's the same as at the bottom. But since these are cushion covers, it's not as, crucial. It just makes it easier when you go to put the cushion actually in it. Now, in case you didn't know, the 5/8 inch seam that you just stitched is the width of one side of the zipper from the teeth to the edge. That's 5/8. Isn't that pretty wild, huh? So that's why you can line up your zipper edge with the edge of the fabric and you know that it's in the right place. And I'm just pinning it through one layer of the fabric. Now you can, if it was a piece of clothing, I would definitely press this seam open. But since it's not a piece of clothing, it's not as crucial. But if you want to get into the habit when you're putting zippers in, no matter what you're putting them on, definitely press it open. You can also do what's called a finger press. You take your thumbnail and you just kind of push down really hard on this hard surface and it makes it stay open for you. There's actually a tool that you can buy that does that also. It's some of them are made of bamboo, some are acrylic. You can even use the popsicle stick. That works the same way. So I've got it pinned down on the flap. Of course, that flap's going to be stitched to the actual panel. So I don't have a zipper foot on this machine. So let me see if I have one hiding in here. A cording foot will work as a zipper foot in case you don't have one. And let me see, do I have one in here? If I don't have one there, let's see. I've used an invisible zipper foot before. I was using my standard zipper foot for everything on another machine. From this, actually. This should work with this. This is a invisible zipper foot, but it's a clear one, which I like to be able to see where my stitches are going. So I have quite a few of these. And so I'm going to disengage my zigzag satin foot, which is, to me, it's an all-purpose foot. I can use it for tons of things. And I'm going to put this zipper foot on. Let's just drop it in there. There it goes. And I do have it on there. Do I have it on there backwards or forwards? I can never tell. I gotta look. Nope, that's correct. Yep. It looks the same on the back as it is in the front to me. Okay, now it's in there. So now when I put in my zipper, even though it's not an invisible zipper foot, I can put the teeth where they need to go in this foot. So I'm just going to line it up. Just one thing I did not do was you want to unzip this just a little bit to get it started. See, I just unzipped a little bit of it to get it started to be able to do the one side. And that's a good way to check and make sure that your teeth are just touching your seam as well. And let's get this in here. What I like about the invisible zipper foot is you can line up your teeth on either side just to make sure that it's where it needs to be. So I'm going to put my foot down. Make sure it's in that little groove there. Okay, just like that. Put my needle and make sure I have enough tail on this thread. Sometimes I pull it up, I pulled it out. See? That's what happens. You gotta make sure you have at least about 4 inches leadway. And I didn't have that. And it pulled right out of the needle. So now we're going to put that, it goes this way. Come here. There we go. And put that thread right through there. It's so nice not to have to use a magnifying glass anymore. And cataracts removed, and now I can actually thread my needles without even a needle threader, which is wonderful. Except sometimes it likes to twist when I go to put it in. There it goes. Okay, needle down. Get it, straighten it up there, kiddo. Alright, where are you? Does that even go through that hole? Well, it's not going to work with this foot. So I got to get the metal one. I was hoping I could use the plastic one. This particular foot does not work with this machine unless I put it this way, I guess. I might have had it on there backwards after all. Let's see. It's been a minute since I used this machine. Yep, I had it on backwards. My bad. See? I haven't used that particular invisible zipper foot in a minute, so obviously I forgot some things. There we go. That's much better. Now the needle has a place to go. Alright. Perfect. And I'm just going to guide it on the way down. Get a few stitches and back it up. What's great about this is I can see that I'm not going to be stitching through my stitches or through my teeth, the teeth on the zipper. And we'll put that down, lift that up, and pull the zipper the rest of the way. It's much easier to do with it unzipped for this one side. Way it goes a lot faster. Come on, unzip, baby. Oh, pin's in the way. I mean, we were taught to do it with the zipper shut, and I go, okay. But now that we have the zipper feet that will actually let you see where you're sewing, you don't necessarily. As long as the teeth are in that groove, you're not going to sew into your teeth because the needle's just to the right. And I'm just lining the teeth up with that seam. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side. Line it up. Sometimes using an invisible zipper foot, especially a clear one, is actually the better way to go. I just like the fact that I can see through, make sure the stitches are going where they are supposed to be, the teeth are lined up, and I don't have to worry about him, being out of alignment. Okay, like that. And when you get to the bottom, you want to slow it down a little bit to get around that big knuckle of the zipper itself. And it's kind of tricky. So, go like this. I usually try to do it like a couple of hand stitch things. And I'll bring it up. Actually, no, I do it this way. You put the needle in, and lift the presser foot, and then zip it up a little bit if I can. If I can get it past that little knuckle there. If not, we'll work it. This is where the other zipper foot would have been better. Because it would actually go around it better. Okay. Come on. I'm going to pull it back, zip it up a little bit, and then go back to that spot. Oh, nose is itching. I've been sneezing, so I don't know if I have having some allergy problems today or what, but I've been sneezing a lot. Okay, now we can put it back at that spot. We're just going to stitch over it. Just like that. The teeth and the groove. And when you get to the bottom, you're going to leave your needle in, put your presser foot up, twist it to a 90-degree angle, put that presser foot down, you're going to stitch across just below that little metal piece at the bottom, the stopper. Try not to stitch into it, because if you do, you'll break your needle. I've done that a few times. Okay, now it's in. I'm going to put this up. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side with the zipper. Get in there. It's going to be the same thing, just on the other side. And I'm zipping it back up on the way up. I'm going to take these pins out because the one side stitched to it. It's not going to go anywhere. And when your zipper's upside down like that, you want the pull to be facing as if you were going to unzip it. It's easier to find under there when you want to go, stitching around it. So what I do sometimes with this, since I don't have the single, left or right zipper foot, I'll take and open up some stitches and then unzip the zipper a little bit, and then I'll stitch it, which is what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to trim my threads as I go from when I started, like that. And I'm going to take this one, get myself a nice little 4-inch leader there, and like this. Take that off the other side. I'm going to go in because these stitches are loose on the other side. I'm going to go ahead and open up a couple of them. My seam ripper is in another part of the house right now, so I'm going to do it this way. Okay, you guys, where are you at? D. So I seam ripped it open so that the zipper can open and shut easily. And then I'm going to go back to the part that I couldn't get to and go ahead and stitch those ends nice and secure. Get in there. There we go. The other side. And just for extra measures, I like to stitch across above at the very top so it doesn't have a tendency to pull. Just makes a stronger closure. And there's that. Get my little threads out the way. And so now you can see it's a nice clean zipper, nice and neat, beautiful. Okay, now I'm going to move this serger out of the way so that I have room to do the top part to the sides in just a minute. But right now I'm going to change this foot back out. I don't need that. And put my wide satin foot on there because it gives me, if I want to do a zigzag, I've got a nice wide space to do it. And then I'm going to take and put my zipper piece, I'm going to attach it to the other three. So I want to make sure that my right sides are together. And I'm going to center it on there. And you always want to open out your seam. What I mean by is you open the seam out, and then I'm going to stitch 5/8 inch on this piece, and then on the other side, and then we're going to attach the top and the bottom. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm taking the old cushion and I put one side, bottom or top, doesn't make a difference, on top of it with the right side down. And I'm matching up the four sides with that, and I'm going to pin it and then stitch that and then pin the top with the zipper open, just to make sure that this is going to have a nice snug fit. So let me grab those pins I had. I moved them. What did I do with those pins? Oh, there they are. For this step, I used the longer quilting pins just because this is kind of like doing an alteration. I'm doing a fitting. And I put where each side comes to a corner, I'm matching it up with the corner of the top. Those corners are going to end up being rounded off because it's not totally square. It's kind of a rounded off square. And I'm pinning it at a 5/8 inch seam all the way around. Let's go to this side. So that corner goes there. This one goes here. Now I cut these pieces a little bit on the large side on purpose so that I could adjust it in the last stages instead of cutting it too small, or the potentiality of cutting something too small. I want to be able to do this one time, have a little bit of easement. Not only that, the extra fabric on the inside actually gives it more cushion. So I don't like to, cut it down, trim it all the way down. And some people prefer to do it that way. I know when you buy things made in, mass production, that's usually how they're done. So these sides might be a little bit longer than need to be, but that's okay because I can shorten those up. The ones that are not where the zipper is. So the zipper side stays the same. And so I'm going to open my side seam up, because when you're pinning this, you definitely want to open up your side seams. All your seams should be open for when you go to do the final stitching. Just like there. And come around to the other side. You have to push that goes down. That's that side. And I'm pinning along the top 5/8 inch. Because when I go to pin on the other top or bottom, whatever you want to call it, that's going to cinch up any excess. Because this is going to be nice and snug at the edge, and that's how we want it to be. So I've got it all pinned all along the top, and as you can see, when I got to this one side, there was some extra fabric here. So I pinned it right next to where the cushion is. So I'm going to make a seam right there, and it's on this end, and the same thing on the opposite end. And that will make it more form-fitted. I have plenty to attach the top to. And so I'm going to take this off of the cushion, stitch this corner first, this part here with the, the excess, so I can open it up and let it lay flat, and the same thing on the other side, and then I will stitch the top. So I'm going to get this off of here real gentle like, and I pinned the other side also. See, after a while, these cushions, as they age, the foam shape changes, and so it's always good to cut a little bit larger because you don't know where it's shifted, and you can measure it, but then when you go to actually fit the fabric on it, it's trying to tell you something different. I found that out through the course of many years of playing with doing these sorts of things. I made sure that the corners from the zipper matched up perfectly, and so the other two being a little bit too big is fine. It doesn't deter from what it needs to be sewn as. Well, that's that corner. I gotta find the two. There it is. There's one, and the other one's on the other end. Yep, there it is. So I've got them pinned where they need to be stitched. How far in they need to be stitched. Just like this. Like that. And get the pedal here. I forgot to put my pedal stopper to keep it from sliding around the floor. Move it back a little bit. There we go. Down this way. Right there. Oh, goody. Oh, it must be allergy season. Oh, goodness. And back stitch. Or lock stitches, we sometimes call it. Okay, there's that. That's one corner, and then I will open up that secondary stitching, the first one that I did. So it won't be so bulky on the corner. And you can cut it away if you like. I'm leaving it in there because as that cushion ages and shapes, or changes shape, that this will actually be extra girth for it, so to speak. Gives it more strength actually to that side now that it's opened. So there's that one. And then there's one more just like it. Do the same thing. Just like this. I'll help if I put the fabric under there. There we go. Take the pin out. Ouch. Okay. Because this seam underneath needs to be kept open. I'm going to watch out for things like that. Okay. There's that. And a little snip here. Goes out. Open up the original seam. That's why I always fit them to the cushion, where you put, you know, put it actually on it, on the cushion that you're going to eventually cover, and make sure that it's all, you know, the way it needs to be. That. And there we go. So that way, this will open up when we stitch around. So I always like to start in the corner when I'm stitching the top to the sides. It's just a preference, because then I can make sure that's a good strong corner. And we're going around this. Like I said, I pinned it at 5/8. When I put the top on it, or bottom, whichever it ends up being, it may not be 5/8. It might be more, might be less. I have a feeling it's going to be exactly 5/8 or maybe a little bit more. So now I'm just going to go around the whole top. So the next step, I took what is going to be the top and put it back on the cushion. And I'm starting from the zipper side. And there's a reason why I'm starting from the zipper side. I want this side to be lined up the way it should. Then I can unzip it and stitch the rest of the way around without any issues of getting that kind of messed up. So what I typically will do is I'll do the two opposite ends, unzip the zipper, and then stitch all the way around. So you want to feel for where this seam is, feel the cushion, make sure that it lines up with that edge, because the top edge can be either right on the seam or it can be a little bit higher, which means the seam will be on the side more so on the top, because sometimes it deters from the look of it. It just depends how you want to do it. I like it for where the bottom's a little bit smaller, so I will tend to adjust my top seam where it's either just on the edge or just a little bit on the low side, in other words towards the bottom. So I'm going to start pinching across here, make sure that this seam is where it needs to be, and as I pin, I'm going to pin them pretty snug but not super snug, because then it'll be too hard to get it back inside. So it's a little bit more than a 5/8 inch seam. Remember I told you it might be, and that's very possible. Giving it a little bit of leeway too. Also, if you have to adjust where the seam is once you get it on the cushion, it allows you to do that. So I'm going to pin this around and then we're going to stitch it. Now as you can see, now I have a little sewing buddy. This is Sweetums, and she decided to take a nap on top of my work here, and I had to step out of the room for a minute. So I'm going to finish pinning this, and I'm going to let her sit up there, and that way you can see her cute little face. So I'm going around the edge, and I'm matching up the edges and pinning it as I go to the shape of the cushion here. And she's gonna stretch. You gonna help? You're just sitting up there, just being all comfy cozy. You're a big photo bomber, aren't you? I don't want to pin your tail. So there she goes. And she likes to be right where I am. She's a 7-month-old kitten. And you cannot play with my marker because I need that to mark the fabric, okay? So I thought you all might enjoy seeing this little fur ball that keeps me entertained. So I'm going around the edge and I'm feeling where the edge of the cushion actually is, and I'm pinning out just a little bit from it to make that my seam line. Now the thing about chenille, in case you didn't know, is it can also have a tendency to stretch, and so that's another reason why I don't cut it to the exact measurement. For this one, I believe I added an inch around just so I could give it, since I wasn't doing cording in it, to give it some more substance, so to speak. And where the pins are, where I'm pinning it for seaming, I'm going to take this washable marker and mark this seam, because obviously once I pin Sweetums, you're famous, once I finish pinning it, I'm not going to be able to get the cushion out of it to stitch it. and I can't stitch it with it on it. And so I'm just turning you around there, baby girl. But this way, I can mark it where it needs to be stitched, because I'm lining up the edges exactly. So all I do is line up the edges exactly again on the sewing machine, and where the drawn seam line is, stitch along that. Now there may be another way to do this, but this way I know that it is specific to a nice fitted cover, and that it's not saggy or super loose, and that it will take the shape of the cushion. So we have two kitties, and both of them seem to want to be wherever I am when I'm doing my sewing work. They don't really help, they just kind of like sit in the middle of it all. Now the corners on this are rounded off, and obviously I didn't cut the top and the bottom rounded off, but putting it together is where I'm going to stitch it with the rounded off shape, obviously. That gives it that more fitted look. And pin that open part here where the seam, or the excess from the side panels that were a little too long, and that's quite alright. I'm turning, as I'm turning the cushion around, this kitty cat, she's like, I think I'm going to get down now. So once I get this done pinning, and on 3 sides it is 5/8 of an inch, so that makes it a little easier. And of course the one side is a little bit wider, so it's not going to be too hard what I do, because I'm going to have to unpin at least 2 sides of this and have 2 sides to stitch back together, just like this here. We're almost to the end here. And the way you do, you figure out, I'm just turning it around, darling. She's inspecting my work, aren't you? You just like to be in the middle of everything. So look who's in front, center stage. Yeah, she'll be a year old in October. I mean, different people do these different ways. I like mine to look really nice and fitted, as you can see from the other one. And this away. It'll be nice and fitted. So all the edges are matched up, but the stitching line is going to be exactly where it needs to be. So do it like this. And I'm going to mark just this top part, so I'm just going to stitch from this side and that way, so that edge is meeting there, and it curves around to follow the shape of the cushion. And I like to make something like this where the actual seams to the bottom are actually underneath. So I could have cut the bottom piece smaller, just a hair smaller than the top, but then I would have run the risk of cutting it too small. Because like I said, chenille does stretch, and it can even stretch while you're attempting to cut it, so you want to be very careful with it. So there I've got it all pinned all the way around. It's pinned all the way around. All the way around is pinned. And Sweetums is going to watch me draw my little line. This is going to be the seam line. This is a marker that washes out. So we're going to go, I'm just going to follow the indentation from pinning it. And that's going to give me a seam line. I'm going to do that all the way around. This way. So even after I unpin it, I will still have that seam line to sew onto, or to actually stitch. Just like this. And this washes out, this marker washes out. I mean, you can actually wash it out just with plain water. So I love these marking pens for sewing. You can get them on Amazon. And just in there. Because like, I'm sure when this cushion was brand spanking new, it was probably pretty square, and now it's kind of rounded out in spots from having been sat on and whatnot. So now it's all drawn on, and all I'm going to do is undo 3 sides of it, take the cushion out, and then repin it on the line, because I know where it's on. I'm just going to pin it on that same line. So we'll leave the one where the zipper is, which is on the other side. I believe, yes. That's the zipper side back here. So we'll leave the zipper side pin and undo the other 3 sides. And then we'll go ahead and stitch this baby up and get ready to stuff it in there. Good. Good. Just like this. I'm going to be able to take it out of here and then put it back in. That way, like that. We'll get to the, as Sweetums watches. Yeah, I interrupted her nap time on the cushion. Alright, get to the other side. Now I unpinned the 3 sides. I've got the one side with the zipper. It's still pinned. That on the floor. And now I'm going to start stitching here and all the way around. And while I do that, when I do that, I'm going to unzip the zipper now. I kept it zipped while I was pinning it to keep it nice and taut for all the 4 sides. Now that I know where I'm going to stitch it, I don't need that. So as you can see, I've got an audience here besides everyone else out there. And I'm going to start at the corner, just like I prefer to do. And let's see. Yeah, because that's going to go this way. Alright, so let's start at the corner here. Just like I had it before. Right there. I'm going to take this one pin out because I don't want to break my needle. And it's kind of in the way. Put with a needle in. And off we go. Put the pins horizontal and hold it in place. Sweetums, honey, you're in the way. I guess she wants to sit right in the middle of everything. What you thinking? Huh? What you thinking, little one? Yeah, let's see. Okay. This is a double layer chenille, actually. So they made one print and then attached the other print to it. So then we're going to open that seam up behind, and I'm going to put a little pin in there to hold it open in the corners, because I don't want the flaps to get doubled up. I want them to be nice and flat on the other side. So I'm going to go like this, and come around the bend here in a second. The other side. Oops. Slowly come around in a curve, and then we will finish the next side. Well, now it's been sewn all the way around the top. My little friend's not here, and as you can see on the side seams, I've opened them up and sewed them so it would lay nice and flat for the shape. And now we're going to turn this right side out. Now I did not cut off the corners for a reason. If in putting this on, since the corners have worn down some, this will give it some more strength in the corners. But you can cut across the corners if you choose to, so that it's not as bulky underneath. But this is an old cushion, so it might need that little bit of bulk stuck in there. But if it seems too tight, then I'll just trim them down. And to do that, to show you, I'll do one where the point is, and this is where the curve has been sewn. The curve, that little point there, you just cut it to the shape of the curve. That's all you do. So now I'm going to put this cushion up here, cross my fingers, that it won't be too much trouble getting it in there. And let's see. The zipper's going in the back, and it's going to be long ways. It's got to go in long ways. And this is going to be, I'd prefer that it went in short ways. It'd be easier, but the zipper's in the back, so I'm going to put this up here, and I'm going to have to bend this as best I can, bend it in half. Now if I have to sit on the floor, I'll sit on the floor to do it, because I've had to do that before. I could have taken the zipper out of the original if I wanted to, but I did not do that. Let's see. Okay. This is a really stiff cushion, so it's going to be kind of testy. Okay, so I'll go put one corner in. Just like this. And wrap as much of it around as I can. and then squash it. Squash it in there. You almost have to fold it in half, and that's not easy to do when it's such a stiff kind of cushion. That's why if I'd had a bigger zipper, it would have been easier. But I didn't have a bigger zipper. So we're going to play squish it. Okay? Because once you get it in, it's just a matter of shimmying it. Come on. And I end up having to turn it over and try to get it from the other side. Sometimes one side's more forgiving than the other. Price for having a form fitted. Okay. Alright, you. Well, I may have to fold it in half long ways. I didn't do that with the other one, I don't think. Well, let me fiddle around with it here. Let's see if we can get this thing shoved in there. Well, sometimes it takes some muscles. So, and let me fix this camera a little bit. There we go. And finally got it in there. When the zipper is on the long side, you want to make sure, because you're putting it through the zipper, that zipper ends up on the side that you need. So you have to bend it. In this case, it was tough because I had to bend it long ways. I had to bend it in half here. And got a few little straggly strings, but as you can see, it turned out beautiful. And now I've got two of them. That one and the other one back here. And then those are done. Pillows are done. All I got to do now is the cover. And hope you've enjoyed this, even though lengthy video, because when you're trying to make them fitted, it can be a little cumbersome, but it's worth it. The chenille looks great. Does stretch a little bit, that's the test, but I hope you've enjoyed this particular video, and I'll have more coming for you. God bless everyone.